Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about Ishi sticks. This is an Ishi stick, and this is named after Ishi, who is believed to be the last wild Indian, and he came out of the woods in Northern California around 1911. And when he would do his demonstrations, he would use a stick with a nail in it, similar to this, except that he was using steel or iron, and I'm using copper on these. I've got several Ishi sticks. This is my heavier one. This is probably like 5/16 or 3/8 or something copper. I want it really thick so it won't bend when I put a lot of pressure on it. This is a smaller one for lighter work. Both of these sticks are hardwood. A lot of times I'll use like broken shovel handles, things like that. Any kind of dowel will work. One of the problems I've had is with the tips here splitting the wood from all the pressure, and that'll happen fairly quickly if you start driving off long flakes. So what I've done is I put some epoxy on here and I wrapped it with carbon fiber. That's the stuff that you can get in any hobby shop. They use it in models, and I was into that for a while, RC gliders, so I put some of that on there. I know it's super strong stuff. You could use fiberglass, anything, but if you have it wrapped radially around, it'll help prevent that from cracking and splitting. So that's real good. You can tell I haven't used these in a while. They're pretty tarnished. I also use these pads here to support the piece. My pads are backed either with something hard so that it won't bend, in this case aluminum, in this case just a piece of little particle board. This one of course is used to drive off really massive flakes, really large biface, and the idea is that you want your notch to match pretty much the flake area so that the flake doesn't touch any part of the pad at termination. You notice it's elliptical shape. The flakes tend to be elliptical in shape as well, so that's the reason for that. Even if it touches over here on the side, it'll terminate your pressure flake short. I just tend to hold this in my hand like that, and we'll get into that in a little while. So I've got different size depending on the size of the blade that I'm making. Typically what I'll do is, if I'm not making a point from start to finish, I'll go out in the pile, and biface pile, and pick something that's close to the size of the point that I want to make. So let's go do that. Okay, this is the biface pile. This is all dacite over here, and typically what I do is when I get done practicing on bifaces, I just add them to the pile here, and then I've always got something available if I want to finish it up. This is the one that I bifaced for the percussion biface video, and this is the one that I'm going to go ahead and run some pressure flakes off of this thing with a Ishi stick. Typically, here's a nice big one, probably 150, 200 pounds, about 25 inches long. Big chunk of dacite, got that a couple weeks ago. Here's some other dacite. This is all blanked out, and most of these are spalls, some partial bifaces. But typically I'll come out to this pile, and this is my practice pile. I don't usually finish up a lot of that. And some Texas, the waste flakes, when I get done, the ones that are big enough, I just throw them out here in the pile. A lot of this stuff is for beginners, or some of the colored stuff I'll make points out of. And I'm actually set up right over there today. Normally I nap over there in the shade, but it's pretty hot, but I want the lighting to be just right, so I'll go ahead and get set up out there. Okay, this is the side that I want to pressure flake, and I'm going to be doing this face. It's got a little bit more convexity than this face over here, which is fairly flat. Of course I could come back and do that, and I will do that later, but for my demonstration I just want to run a series of flakes from here to here, and if I have time maybe I'll run another series on this other edge. So we'll just give you an idea of what this will look like with parallel pressure flaking using an Ishi stick. The edge on this thing is a little bit wavy. The way it goes back and forth, it's kind of sinuous. So I want to straighten that out before I pressure flake it. I want it to be nice and straight, I want it to have the same thickness all the way along. And what I need to do is I'm going to use these two tools right here. Kind of like this will just be a continuation, a small little pressure flaking of what I did in the bifacing video. And I use the pressure flicker a little bit to straighten up the edge. And then I'll get back with you in a minute. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes to do this. I'm going to show you just a little bit about this edge preparation, what I'm doing here. I did most of this side right here. And it's basically just as if you were finishing up a point or a blade. You're just taking small little flakes here to straighten off that edge, off either face as needed. And there's not much to it really. You're just going along there. Also thickening the edge up a tiny bit. You're getting rid of these areas like right in here where it's particularly thick, where the edge is already where you want it. You bypass that area, go to the next area. I'm going to finish the rest down here, but then you flip it around and as needed remove a few flakes off the opposite face. You see how the edge is becoming straighter. Didn't need much of braiding there. These are just small little pressure flakes. I got to do the rest of it, but what you do then, just kind of brush those small little flakes off of there. I like to do it in both directions. And then abrade it. And if necessary, come back and remove a couple more flakes just where it's not quite centered. You want the platform close to center, close to center plane. That gives you a real nice convexity from edge to edge when you get done with a point. You don't want any real thick areas along the edge, because it would just require an incredible amount of force to remove a flake from those areas. Okay, I'm going to stop and finish this up, but you get the idea of what I'm doing here. We did this little area right here. I'm going to finish up the rest of this edge and this edge and get back to you. Okay, we're back. We got this edge ready to go for a series of flakes off of this face. And the edge is a little bit toward that face, pretty close to the center line. Doesn't look too bad. I may need to make an adjustment as we go along here. Sometimes you have to do that. Things start to look a little bit different. I'm going to use this little finger guard here. It's made out of leather and shoe goo. And I saw one of these on Greg Nunn's video. He's got an excellent video out on replicating the Type 1C Danish dagger. He uses this as a support for the back edge, and it works really good. It helps reduce the breakage rate. I've been using this for about a year. And what I do is I use it as a back support for the opposite edge. So we're going to get started here, and I'll try and show you several different angles. It's so bright out here I can't see in the viewfinder whether what you're seeing is very good or not. I can see there's a shadow on it depending on how I do it. But okay, so I start off, I'm using my Ishi stick and I'm pushing back toward my finger here, more than straight in, actually toward the back face a little bit. I guess it's aiming right at my fingernail that's underneath that glove. And I take a couple short flakes here just to get things started.